Welcome everybody to the Lakeshow Talk Show. It's your boy Dom again, joined with Briss, Josie, and we're about to go at it with episodes 3 and 4 of the Jordan doc series. A lot happened throughout that series, and it's gonna be pretty crazy. Let's just jump into it right away, and let's get started with the Rodman story, man. It's crazy. Josie, what's your take on the whole episodes of Dennis Rodman?
Man, you know what? I think in this docu-series, this has been the best episode. I know this documentary is about Jordan, but Rodman, he's something else. Special, different, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, I think, obviously, everybody at that time, and, well, especially everybody right now, everybody remembers Jordan, right? Like, anybody that's a sports fan, even people that aren't sports fans. But I think in that era, at that time, I think Rodman could have been bigger than Jordan. He might have been bigger than Jordan. Not in terms of being the best basketball player, but just in terms of the pop culture icon that he was.
Yeah.
Like,
Actually, when he went to the Bulls, he was said to be, and not from Jordan's popular from the NBA world, but beyond that, Rodman, with all the extravagant lifestyle he lived, he was actually more popular than Jordan when he was on the Bulls team at that time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jordan, his legacy still stands with basketball. He changed the game, right? But I would say that Rodman, man, he changed the world, like culturally and just how people dress. The only other person I can think of made a similar difference in the NBA, like Rodman did, but Rodman came before him, was AI. Like when AI came and he was playing, and the way he dressed, like his swagger, right? Like a bunch of other guys in the NBA were able to like he paved the way so they could dress like that. You know, they were baggy and, you know, but with Rodman, he was different. He was counterculture. Like you hadn't seen that before, and you really haven't seen much of it afterwards. I see it a little bit, like Westbrook tries to dress a certain way, or like Harden. It's a little quirky, it's a little different, but Rodman was just different. Like he's not what you would have thought an NBA player would be. It's not like he was dressing like he was swaggy. He was dressed like, crazy. It was just different, man. So I think this is the most interesting episode, maybe the most interesting basketball player ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Briss, what do you think, Briss?
So let me put it like this, right? This Bulls documentary is to show that this was the team of the decade, probably one of the best teams of all time, right? And one of the big key people in that team was Dennis Rodman. But man, now that you go into it, who let the man take a 48-hour vacation and come back like nothing happened? I mean, that just puts cement to this type of legacy. I mean, not on achievement-wise, right?
Wait, let me stop you real quick. I couldn't hear you really well for a second.
For which part? On your audio? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to rephrase it. So these guys were the baddest people on the planet, right? And for one guy to go take a vacation for 48 hours, man, that just cements to me more that team was the team and probably is the team, right? One of the guys is like, how much confidence does your coach have to have in you to be like, go let him do what he wants? He's gonna give you what you need on the basketball court every single time. Empty the tank. Why care about his ethics off the field? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? If he's not a bad image, right? It's different. It did bring media. It's not like a bad image. How we think like, let's say Aaron Hernandez, right? Off the field is a straight up criminal. But Dennis Rodman was just different. He dated Madonna, Carmen Electra. We all saw that in the episodes. And he just found himself comfortable and still was able to put all that effort onto the court. I mean, that just puts my opinion of Dennis Rodman just literally went up because once I only knew him as the basketball player, right? The guy that wouldn't care about points. He just said, my role is rebounds, um, and defense, and to not let another team get a bucket. I mean, a guy that understands his role and plays his role to perfection, and all he needed was just some type of structure. And that Bulls team and that Detroit team for him throughout that career gave that to him, and for him to excel. I mean, the dude's one of the baddest people on the planet. I mean, yeah, he does some crazy things off the court, but you can't discredit him for that. I mean, he's one of the most interesting people that may have changed the game, right? Not just in basketball. I want to say throughout different cultures, throughout different eras, like in music, right? It leads the way for these guys to be open and express themselves in other ways, right? Maybe not to the same extent, but it leaves things like in football, right? These guys are now coming into other areas other than just football. They're opening themselves to other possibilities. So I think Rodman was the gateway for a lot of these new generation athletes to express themselves in other things other than just basketball itself or the sport itself.
You bring up a good point, Briss. He needed that structure, and the word is needed. I think we see with this part of the documentary, we see like a much more human side of these elite athletes. We've seen a little bit of it when they touched on Jordan and his upbringing, right? But we're used to that story, you know, coming from like a big family, like the competitive spirit, the sibling rivalries. Uh, we're used to that sort of story, like the story, like that makes us feel good, that like motivates us. But this type of story with Rodman, it makes us think, like not just about sports. It makes us think about life. It's a His life was much darker than what we're used to, and that what we care to think about in our everyday lives. And I think that this part of the documentary did a good job of showing that. We all watched the Rodman documentary, the ESPN 30 for 30, and that illuminated some more things. And I think that's what really makes this different. We've heard about different athletes, LeBron, other guys that have come from nothing and have made it big, but they just have this assurance about them. They have this mentality about them, and that like that we're attracted to that mentality. Like we like that. We want to hear those stories. But when it comes to like what Rodman went through, that makes us feel like a certain way and makes us question things. But I think that's what makes him so different, is that he was kind of lost. He was in a dark place. Um, in his own documentary, they said that he didn't really get to enjoy childhood. So when he was in his mid-20s, he was still behaving in certain ways. So we really see like a different glimpse of what an elite athlete is. Because we feel like as sports fans, we feel like these guys have it together. These guys have everything, and they should be happy, and they're comfortable. But some of these athletes carry other things with them. So I think I think there's a different change. Yeah, it was a good change to see this.
No, yeah, from a basketball standpoint, for me, I think Dennis Rodman is like the true definition of work hard, play hard. You know what I mean? Because that guy would party hard, and I think it said it in his own documentary, ESPN 30 for 30 for Dennis Rodman. There was a point where he would play a game, work out after the game, and party all night, wake up, do it again. And you wouldn't, he was like inhuman. You wouldn't even know it. Like he was the true definition of work hard, play hard. But going into the court, it's mind blowing how he's in the Hall of Fame, how dominant he was. Because, he only averaged in double digits of points per year once. He averaged 11.6, I think, in 1 year. think his second year or third year. But other than that, he doesn't score that much. He's just a major dominant rebounding machine, and he was obsessive with it. And on the defensive standpoint too, he was just a beast. Yeah. And it's crazy. He led the league in rebounding for 7 years straight. And one of those years in San Antonio, he was suspended and injured. He only played, I think, like maybe 50 games or so at the most. And he led the league in rebounding that year with the average. I mean, I think he hit that he hit the point. I think he had to get at least 800 rebounds, it said, and he barely hit that. But his average was just better than everybody else's. So yeah, on a basketball standpoint, he was just a beast.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And going into his personal life, that whole vacation, I think that was just a great understanding with Phil Jackson. I mean, we see how Phil was kind of like the same kind of guy in a sense, you know, when in his early days with the Knicks and things like that. So I think he kind of had an understanding. So it was kind of a good relationship between the two. But man, that boy Party, he took it a little too far. I can understand Jordan saying, no, you got to get your butt back. All right, we got games to play. And I looked it up. I think he only missed like 2 games, but you know, there's practices and stuff in between. So he missed quite a few things. But man, and he says the thing I'm wondering is Rodman came out saying, I don't think the Bulls win without me. And I'm wondering what your guys' take is on that. Because, I mean, the Bulls did win 3 before, but they had Horace Grant. So, I mean, do you guys think they would have won if they didn't get Dennis Rodman? Because I know before bringing him in, when Jordan came back from his first retirement, Phil Jackson said he needed to restructure. And also so did assistant GM. Krause didn't want Rodman, but Jackson wanted him, and so the assistant GM. So they brought him in. But, what if they would have got some other big man instead? Like, do you guys think the Bulls would still have this 3 rings without Dennis Rodman?
I'll take first. So let me put it like this, right? I don't think they would have won, and here's my reasoning, right? You can only be the same system, the same champion, the same dynasty so long without change, right? You've seen the Lakers, right? You've seen the Celtics, you've seen the Pistons, and you've seen the Bulls. What happens halfway through most of those dynasties? You have to make trades, right?
Right.
Otherwise, you just fall apart. So for the Bulls, there had to be change. I mean, you can only do it so far and so physical and so for so long, right? It doesn't just affect your physical body, it affects your mental, and it affects you in the long term, right? Because after so much beating and going through the physicality, season, back-to-back games, playoff runs, it's so hard to do that sometimes people can't keep going through it, right? I'm not saying everybody, but somebody in that structure is not going to be able to do it. So you have to make a move.
That's why you give them a 48-hour vacation, your players.
Yeah.
Joes, what you think? Do they win without Rodman?
I think they win. I don't think they three-peat.
Right.
Yeah. I think they go and win 1, maybe 2 without him, but they struggle more. I don't think they go and win how they won when they won with him that first year. But I think they still take 1 for sure without him, and then teams adjust to that system, like Briss was saying, and it gets harder. Your guys get older. You don't have someone with that mentality. It's hard to replace someone with that mentality that Rodman had, that focus he had, and just that relentless. Like you said earlier, he was just so focused on his role, and he was amazing at his role. I think they take 1 without him, but I don't think they take more than that.
Right. Really, yeah. I agree. They were so dominant, all 3 of them, because Jordan had brought the mindset every day to be the best player, and Pippen was a great talent and feeding off of Jordan's energy. He brought that same work ethic. And Rodman, he actually studied rebounding. He studied players and it's surprising seeing the lifestyle he lived, but this man actually came to work. Like, he actually worked harder than almost anybody there is. And he also, in a sense, had that same mindset, like he wanted to be the best.
Yeah, and if we keep in mind, then that last season, that last chip they took, when Pippen, he elected not to have that surgery later than he could have.
Right.
Rodman was at number 2 for Jordan, and if he wouldn't have been there, they would have collapsed while Pippen was out. So they definitely wouldn't have taken that third chip. But yeah, I think they take one, no more than that.
So now let me throw a hypothetical, right? If Rodman never came for the second three-peat, does Jordan become the greatest player of all time?
Oof.
You want this on? Take it. That's tough. That's tough to it's tough to think about. I mean,
I think the argument wouldn't be as strong. Everybody talks about Jordan and they say 6 for 6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they win 6, first of all, right? Because of what I said, they don't have Rodman. I don't think they take 6. I think they could have made it. They take 1 for sure. And in those other 2 years, they could have gone to the chip again. I think without a guy like Rodman, they could have lost in the finals against somebody else. So, and if he loses in the finals once, I think people were more willing to open up to the possibility of him not being the GOAT. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, it's hard. It's tough to say, if Rodman didn't go. I mean, they wouldn't even have that 72-10 win season. I mean, that was Michael Jordan's first year back, and they just got Rodman too. And the next thing you know, they just go off and just start dominating people. I don't know if that would have happened.
Great point. Yeah, I don't think that happens without Rodman. They don't get that 72 win season without Rodman. So I don't think he's considered the GOAT. I think he's considered one of the greatest. I don't think he's considered the GOAT without Rodman, because he needed Rodman and Pippen.
Right.
Yeah. If he didn't have them, he wouldn't have been the GOAT.
Right. It's just like his early years. He couldn't do it by himself.
No, he just would have been probably the most amazing athlete there. Relentless scorer. He would have gotten so many scoring titles, but no, he's not the GOAT. He's just one of the greatest scorers ever. Yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, he would have just been like a Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I could see that. Now let me throw this other thing. Could we say Rodman is a how do you put this?
Rodman's a defensive GOAT.
Right. But now let's put on his list, right? Bird out of the equation, right? They beat the Celtics era. Magic out of the Celtics equation.
Celtics when they're in their prime too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going with. Lakers out of the equation. Took the Bulls out of the equation for a long time, right?
Yeah. Hey, Rodman beat Jordan and Pippen.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
The same can be said, because Jordan and Pippen beat Rodman once, but Rodman beat Jordan and Pippen multiple times in the playoffs.
Right. Now,
who else has done that?
People don't put that into perspective, right? You don't think about that. If you look at his actual list of who they've beaten in that time, I mean, he's been a part of some really dominant teams and doesn't get the credit that he probably deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say let's get into the bad boys, or Rodman's early years. If you guys want to jump into that, and it documented a lot in the series here, these episodes. So the early years of the bad boy Pistons. You guys, who wants to take this one?
I can start off, but I think it kind of trails into it. What I'm saying, that Rodman and also as an extension, the bad boy Pistons don't get enough credit. Because one of the things that has been said about that has been questioned in terms of what Jordan accomplished was at the time that he did it, the timing of it all. was when the Lakers, when Magic, and when the Celtics, even the bad boy Pistons, when they beat them, they were getting older. I think they were still balling out. But that's something that will get brought up when you talk about it. Is that those guys and those franchises were getting older at that time, so the timing of it worked. I think Rodman, Pippen, Jordan, and the rest of the gang, when they're at their peak, they still beat those other teams when they're at their peak, but they did beat them when they're getting older. So, but the Pistons, they beat those teams when those teams were at their best. They did. So I don't think they get enough credit. I don't think their style of basketball was really basketball, but they got the job done.
It was like street ball.
Yeah, it's like, forget street ball. These guys were like just tackling guys. Lambeer, you could see him in different clips. Guys would come around and he just have his hand out. Just, yeah, I don't think.
Disagree with you guys on that one.
Yeah, I don't think that was basketball, but
let me put it like this, right? You have a referee for a reason. I get it. There was no flagrant fouls, but you could still throw somebody out of the game. Am I correct on that one?
Right.
So, what do we tell people? What are we told, and what do we tell the next generation all the time? Play till the whistle is blown. Right?
Or until you get knocked out like the Pistons would do.
Well, right. But we're putting the blame on the Pistons, right? But in the background, you guys probably don't notice that, right? It's bringing TV sales, right? So the execs are like, we don't want to change rules. It's bringing us money. It's bringing us viewership. Mm-hmm. And hey, referees, if you guys are complaining about it, make some calls. Kick some people out. They probably won't do it again. I mean, we get it. There's no flagrant fouls, right? But you can still kick somebody out, right? Any of those calls are easily a kick out of the game. But if you constantly let them do that, and other teams start doing it, because we seen it in the documentary with Magic, or with the Bad Boys, they weren't the only ones dishing it. I mean,
Magic and Isaiah dished it in the finals. They're dishing it to each other.
Right. So I think what it was is that not that their image was just them only doing it. It was everybody. I think everybody did a part of it. It was just them that were on the major television networks that it made it look so super bad. Right? Don't get me wrong. Lambeer is a solid person that will not give a care about what he does on the court. And honestly, if he did that to me or any of you guys, I'm pretty sure we get in a fight with him exactly like other players did. But I think people should understand that that's how it was done. I mean, Bird did it. I'm pretty sure Magic did it when he elbowed Isaiah. If the league was so worried about it, they would have did something then. That's my
take. The positive side of it, I mean, it was part of their game, you know. They got in your heads. They messed you up and they bullied you. And all you were thinking about was just wanting to fight them. They threw your game off. You weren't making shots anymore. And that was something that Lambeer was great at. You know what I mean? Like he got in your head so much that you disliked the guy so much that you couldn't play how you were supposed to be playing in the game. You know what I mean?
Yep. And I think so. Now that we're going into physical play, right? What is your guys' takes on the Jordan rules? Do you think they really made them? I mean, they said they made them, but like,
they're real.
Was the part of just go and hurt them? Was that real? Or do you guys think? Or do you guys think that?
I think so. I mean, watching the 30-30 on the Pistons, the bad boy Pistons. I mean, they come out saying what the rules were. They say the one thing is you don't want to let him take flight, so you want to beat him on the ground, knock him down. I mean, that kind of seems like they're trying to hurt him. Another thing is I think one of the coach at the time was saying this. I forgot who it was exactly. But he says if Jordan's on the wings, you push him to the elbow. If he's up top, you push him to his left. If he's got the ball in the low post, you trap him from the top. But the main thing was they just wanted to bully him. And I think they did want to hurt him. Not super intentionally, but, they did want to bully him pretty much. And, at the end, that's still hurting him. You know what I mean? That's trying to intentionally hurt him. I think they're real, the Jordan rules.
Yeah, I think, they're trying to, by hurting him, by hating him, by taking some of those spots away from him, I think they're trying to, psychologically break him down. And I think they did a great job at that. It worked for them. So, and like you said, it was all within the confine of the rules at the time. So we really can't take it away from them. It was allowed, and that's what you do, You push your limits, and you see what
it worked, but the Bulls almost had on that one game, and then Scotty got the migraine, and supposedly, I don't know. I've experienced migraines, and I can understand they're pretty bad, but I've never had it. It must be pretty bad because I do get light sensitivity. So I from experience, I get what he's talking about. I can kind of see why he couldn't really play, and especially going against Dennis Rodman, and that dude's just all up in your face, all up in your mug.
That was migraine, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
That was the migraine.
That was the migraine.
That was the migraine.
Well, I don't know, because we understand that's what, from a medical professional standpoint, right? That's what they said, but Jordan's reaction was like, "Yeah, the thing with Scotty that game." I don't know if
he didn't like it. I know he didn't like it. But
and then
also
Lambeer,
he didn't like losing.
Lambeer too. He was like, if nothing's broken, there's no blood. Any of us would be playing.
Yeah.
So,
from my point, I understand it. But what do you guys think about the whole Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan feud? They're going at it. It's still going.
It's still going. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's time to drop it. I think Isaiah is getting his feelings hurt regarding the things that were said in the documentary. But what Jordan said in the documentary, calling him an asshole, and just that he knows that after they beat him and they didn't give the handshake, he knows that was on purpose. And if they change their mind now, it's just because of how people have reacted and how people did react after that. I think Isaiah needs to let it go. He's an older man now. It's time to let it go. What Jordan said in that documentary was about his feelings at that time, at that point in time. They're reflecting now about what happened and how he felt. I think Jordan respects him. He obviously accomplished a lot. Isaiah beat him, obviously, multiple times. Beat Magic, beat the Celtics, world champions twice. He respects that from him. I think Jordan also, though, if you watch the video of when the Pistons beat the Celtics, when they overcame them and the Celtics walk out, they did the same thing. It was that era of people weren't soft, and those guys were just mad that they lost. I know that Jordan and his teams, after they lost, they would shake their hands. But you have to understand, I guess, who those guys were, like those bad boy Pistons, and just let it go. I think both of those guys, I think it's a bigger deal than it needs to be. Yeah.
I think it's okay for Isaiah to keep that pain and keep that keep that in him. I don't think he should let it go because it's kind of messed up the way Jordan talked about the team of Detroit, and he really, at that time of the era too, he really put them down and was telling them those are bad guys, they're bad for the NBA and this and that, and to them they took it personal, to their own city, to their team, and it was messed up because it wasn't like the walk-off was different from the Celtics to the Pistons. The Pistons, you could tell they look like they're smirking on the sideline, and Isaiah ducks his head, ducks down, and he's kind of smiling along the way. He's kind of smiling along the way, walking by. So, that was just it was like a ha-ha moment to him. But I also think they just didn't like the Bulls either. I'm not sure. But it hurt Isaiah a lot because the next following year after Jordan won that chip that year, Isaiah didn't get voted on for the Dream Team. And that was kind of messed up just because of the reputation he has. But he was a great player at that time, and he was probably one of the ones that should have been on the Dream Team. So I think he's still hurt from that mainly. and I think he just carries on that aggression still, and he just holds that with himself.
What do you think, Briss?
I'll be honest. They both soft. Let me put it like this. You did it in the moment, right? It happens. It's part of the game. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's some teams you don't want to go shake hands with. And honestly, if you didn't, it is what it is, right? You both mutually, I mean, not both of them mutually said don't shake hands. But if that happened to them, right? The Pistons, it happened to them. That's how they were taught. And Jordan, dude, you won. You swept them.
Yeah.
Like, go home, be happy. You won a chip that year.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Jordan's so ultra competitive. I mean, like, if you just whoop these guys, you whooped them so bad that they couldn't shake your hands. Relish in that. Like, don't be whining that they didn't shake your hand. You beat them so bad they didn't want to shake your hand. That's a good thing.
Hey,
no, I think he felt that too. He even said that, you know, it was a better feeling of winning the championship, getting over the Pistons. So I think he really loved that they swept him too. Like, you see him on the bus afterward. He goes, sweep, 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 sweep. You know what I mean?
He wore a shirt that said three-peat, and it was supposed to be the Bulls.
Crossed off.
Yeah.
No, it was the Pistons. It was supposed to be
Pistons. Pistons. But let me put it like this. If you're still mad and you're how old? Dude, I mean, what else you got? You got the biggest company of Nike possible. You're literally world renowned. You could literally go anywhere and there's still a crowd of people wanting to know you.
Are we talking about Jordan?
Yeah, Jordan.
Oh.
I mean, all Isaiah has right now, honestly, is he still a team owner by chance? I don't remember if he still is or not, or part of an organization.
I'm not sure.
I know he's still with TNT occasionally when they do the Players Month for the TNT pregame show and after-game show. But really, everybody just looks at him as that image of, like, he didn't shake hands with Jordan. Like, okay, grow up. Part of sports. You have some guys that don't shake hands. It's part of the sport.
Yeah, I will touch on that though. Like, Dom, what you were saying earlier, maybe that's what you're trying to say is that I think it didn't need to go that far. You know, he didn't shake hands. He was mad. They were all mad. Like, he's human. That's an emotion. I don't think he should have been. I don't think he should have been left off of that team, that dream team either. I don't think he should have been left off that team. I don't think they should have taken that much heat at that time, and they still take heat for that. They're all human. They lost. They were mad. It was in that moment.
Right. To me, it was like the equivalent of Cam Newton that year. He went to the Super Bowl and they lost, and they want to interview you. Like, he just got his butt whooped and he didn't want to interview. Like, you know, it's kind of messed up to kind of you know, be sportsmanlike in a way when you're hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, now he's off every team possible and doesn't know where he's going now. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but I think the dream team really hurt him. Not only the handshake years before that in the documentary with the Pistons, Bad Boys, there was that comment that Rodman made towards Larry Bird, came off a little racial, and then Isaiah kind of hopped on it and agreed to it. So, and then the apology, like, I don't know if you saw the documentary, like, Bird and Isaiah got together to do a press conference and make a formal apology, and it just went all bad for Isaiah. Like, it didn't look good. And next thing you know, Bird ends up walking away. And so I kind of think Isaiah maybe done this to himself a little bit. Like, you know, he kind of hurt his reputation. But still, it's sad that you're gonna do that to not vote him in on the dream team. You know, like those guys who didn't want him on the team.
Yeah.
I think his own coach was the Chuck Daly was the coach of the Pistons too.
Yeah.
I think they said so. It just hurt. I can tell how that just hurt a lot for him.
He seems like a really chippy guy, even now at older age. You know, he reminds me of a KD, where he will snap back. You know, people say something or he hears something, he has to say something back instead of just not replying, not saying anything. And I think that cost him. But it's something he has to live with. It's something he needs to get over with because he brought it. Part of it he brought upon himself.
Yeah.
Like KD, we might be having this conversation about him many years from now. When his career is all over, and they'll reflect and they'll talk about how he was in social media and how he's snapping back at people and the criticism that he's had. Some of that stuff he's brought it onto himself for feeling the need to reply to everybody about everything.
Yeah, so let me put it like this. I think Isaiah is a guy that's trapped in this immortal ego, if you would want to say, right? He's always going to have that dog in him. And Jordan has it too. And they're both going to do it and probably till the day that they're not here on this planet anymore.
Well, you know what? That's what's made them successful. Right. So in a way, it's not bad. If Isaiah wasn't the way that he is and that he was, he wouldn't have reached that pinnacle. The sports world at one point, he wouldn't have been what he was. And it's hard to let that go. That's like in you. That's just that drive, that mentality. Like you said, Jordan has the same thing. So but with Isaiah, it cost him a little bit. But without it, he wouldn't have been who he was.
Right. I mean, they're kind of similar players, coming into the league, and Isaiah in the same sense, he had like opportunities as just like Jordan. Like the Pistons could have been a little bit more dominant, in the era they were in, because they had the Celtics in one game. Isaiah makes a bad pass, they lose that game. They win Game 6. Celtics win Game 7 at home. So I mean, they could have had a chance to go to the finals that year. Then they get to the finals the next year, and Isaiah plays the greatest game possible on a sprained ankle, trying to end it, and Kareem hits a game winner. They could have ended it and they could have been a three-peat. Mm-hmm. They could have. But I mean, in a sense, it was he kind of came into the league just like Jordan, like with that same dominant mindset, and he came in dominant right away. So it's strange just seeing how the next thing you know, his level stopped and Jordan just kept elevating. I think that's why they kind of bump heads at each other, because they're kind of just similar in a way.
Yeah. Can we say that both of these guys still haven't found that off switch for the rest of their life?
Yeah, they like.
Go ahead.
No, they like to chatter a little bit and still talk smack on each other.
Yeah, I want that Isaiah versus Jordan golf match.
Oh yeah. No. Speaking of Jordan, let's get into like the docuseries also talked about the coaching from Doug Collins leading into Phil Jackson, and it also leads into Jordan's first chip. There was a lot of it's kind of following Jordan's career in a way. So I mean, well, what do you guys think of the whole coaching standpoint from Collins to Phil Jackson to winning the chip, and what's your take on how that played out on your minds?
I think the coaching made a huge difference, and this is where we need to give Krause his due credit. In getting Phil and seeing that shift, it wasn't enough that Jordan was the beast that he was. It wasn't enough. He could have kept winning scoring titles, but that's all he would have kept doing. He wouldn't have won chips that way. When Phil came, Jordan talks about Phil. He didn't like him at first. He didn't like Phil. Because Phil wanted to take the ball out of his hands, whereas Doug Collins focused on Jordan isolation. So the ball was always with Jordan, and Phil was like, "We got to share the ball. Some of these other guys got to shoot. Now you got to trust them." And without that, I don't think they win it. Without that shift, so the coaching made a huge difference.
What's your take, Briss?
So, Doug Collins is the first person, correct? With the Jordan isolation. So, I mean, he did win games, right? But let's be honest. I think that type of mentality of like, especially when he came out in an interview saying, "Oh, give Jordan the ball and everybody get the hell out of the way." I think that's just lazy coaching, in my honest opinion. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an NBA coach, right? He has to have some knowledge of the game at a high level, right? But you have to be able to develop a system to succeed, right? You can't just do it with one person when there's 5 other people across the court. What are you going to do? Just lay 5 people in 2 in the corner one in the middle, and the guy at the top is going to run the ball. He's just going to run around you. Just stay out of his way. I
Playing
think that,
James Harden ball.
yeah, I now Mike D'Antoni does it a little bit different. He actually involves other people, but James Harden can facilitate that, right? Doug Collins was just saying, Jordan, you do what you want, right? And I think that's something that, in my opinion, is a little bit of lazy coaching because you don't figure out a system that'll get you to that next level.
So what did you think about Phil?
I think Phil's excellent. Now, right, Phil understood the triangle system to the T, right? And it wasn't his own. He learned it from, I forgot the guy that created it.
But
Winner.
how do you feel
Tex
about Phil and his system and how it helped the Bulls, and just in
So,
general terms instead of going to the specifics about the coaching?
so Phil just he he expanded their weapons. I mean, right? They had Pippen, they used him. They had Cartwright. I mean, even though Jordan said I wouldn't give Bill Cartwright the ball in the last 5 seconds of a game, but you have that option to, and it just opens it up for everybody to get buckets instead of relying on one guy, right? And Phil was the guy that just didn't get the tactics. He didn't just give you. He gave you motivation to go and get a win every single time on that night, right? After they, I believe it was the second episode, they were in the locker room after they just won their 5th championship. He said, "Hey, get the celebrations. Once you guys are good celebrating, get on the court and let's go back to work." I think that's the mentality a lot of people should understand is championship mentality. Right? There's a time to have fun and there's a time to get to work. And I think Phil Jackson was the key to balancing all of the egos, all of the tactics for that Bulls team to be able to succeed for that long.
Right. I have to agree with Phil, but I kind of think the style of play Doug Collins had in place, it was kind of lazy coaching, I guess you could say. Like, I agree with you, but if it wasn't for that, I mean, Jordan got put on the map. You know what I mean? Like in the year '88, Jordan just won almost everything you could think of: scoring title, defense player of the year, MVP, All-Star MVP, dunk contest champion, steals leader of the league. You know what I mean? Like he just took off that year, and it was Doug Collins' style of coaching, of play, that helped him get to that. And now it was a great move for moving on to Phil Jackson, but Krause made a really great move bringing in Tex Winter. And Tex Winter is the one who created the triangle offense. And I think Krause also saw Phil Jackson's coaching experience, after Phil went to the, CBA or something like that, won titles.
Yeah,
And he tried to bring him on before. Coach before that didn't want him, so he brought him on with Collins. Collins took him in. But I think Jackson's coaching elevated by learning the triangle offense. I think that helped him out a lot because in general, I think Jackson already had the traits of being a great coach, understanding players, understanding pieces, understanding how to deal with them or put them in positions to succeed and play to their best level. He understood their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. But the triangle offense just took Jackson to where he is now. I don't think if he didn't have that style of offense, I don't think he'd be as great as he is.
Yeah. See, I think you brought up another great point, Dom. Krause brought in Doug Collins. He wanted to bring in Phil. The coach before didn't want Phil, but he brought Doug. He saw something in Doug. Doug did something for them, elevated the team, helped elevate Jordan. But then Krause is like, we need more. We need a shift. Then he had Phil study under Tex Winter, and then he had Phil be the coach, right? After Doug Collins had taken the playoffs and far in the playoffs in the year before, even then, But I think that just further just shows or validates how Krause felt, he was a sort of genius in a way, where he saw these things in guys, he saw these things in guys and it worked out for him. So can you really blame him for feeling like like organizations, win championships, so that sort of mentality that he had, right? Everything he did was working. And he found Doug Collins, you know. He found Pippen. He found these other guys. He found Phil Jackson.
Well, I think originally
he felt like he could do it again.
Right. I think originally he wanted Doug Collins to be the Phil Jackson, but Doug Collins didn't want to learn that offense because and Phil Jackson could have just been an assistant his whole life and eventually been just a mediocre head coach because Doug Collins was supposed to be that guy, but he didn't want to listen to Tex Winter. He said, no, this is the style of play we're playing and we're winning games, and they were winning. So it was kind of hard to like say, hey, let's switch it up, you know. But yeah, like you said, Krause did make a great decision. He said, you know, Collins, you're not this is how I want the game to be played. You're not doing that. I'm going to let you go. Just after they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, you know, and you let go Doug Collins, the big surprise in the summer. So, I mean, I think Jerry Krause, he liked to make a lot of noise, too, to the media and everything.
Yeah.
But it was a great move from getting Phil Jackson into the head coaching job. But he prepared Phil, too, as well. He told Phil, you know, start studying this, you know, before you officially became coach. So it was great work, in my opinion, from Krause's end.
So what do you guys think of when they were interviewing Doug Collins and then they were asking him about the transition to Phil Jackson and then he just said, I felt it. Do you guys think he was hurt? Do you guys think he already knew? Or do you think he just doesn't want to talk about it?
I think this, compared to Jordan or Isaiah, this is a man that knows how to keep his composure. Like,
yeah.
I'm sure that hurt. I'm sure he was infuriated at the time. But, you know, he's a much older man now. And he could just suck it up and be like, it happened. That was it. Move on. Yeah. But that shows a lot more of his character, I think, now, and his age and his wisdom, his maturity. But, yeah, I'm sure he was furious at the time.
Yeah, I think deep down inside, you know, he didn't like it. And even to this day, maybe he didn't, but he knows how to hold his composure and be professional about it, you know?
Yeah. My take is just like you saw he was hurt in his eyes. He was hurt.
I saw that too. I'm not gonna lie.
And you know what? That's just like it's part of the game, unfortunately. When one day, literally in the middle of the season, you could be like, I'm the main guy. I have to understand how to get these guys ready for the next game, and boom, you're out of a job. And
Yeah.
I think he did very well where he just understood that. He moved on. I don't know what he did after, but he moved on and he was okay with it.
Yeah, and you know, but Phil coming in, that was overall the best decision. I mean, it also helped elevate all the players around it. It made Scottie Pippen to the player who he is today, you know, or who he was back then. If that offense, that style of offense didn't change in the Bulls organization, you know, you wouldn't be having a great Scottie Pippen. And not only that, it took Phil Jackson's coaching career to just like, you know, beyond of what he probably thought of. You know, he never had a losing season in all the 20 years he's been coaching. So, I mean, it made him to the great Phil Jackson who he is today as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can we talk about how Phil Jackson actually probably is one of the earliest coaches to dabble in sports psychology, right? How he didn't just affect your, like, oh, you have the skills, go out and show it, right? He actually cared for you as a person on your spiritual level, your psychological level, and that helped boost your game as well. In my opinion, I think he's like he had him doing yoga, he had him doing
Tribal,
yeah.
tribal rituals.
He dabbled in some things that weren't in the norm, right? Most of the guys in other teams were just like practice, eat, sleep, get to the plane, and go to the game. But the Bulls team, you know, you get off the bus, all right, everybody pull out your yoga mat, do some spiritual, open yourself up, and I think it relieves some of these guys. What's your guys' take on this?
Hey, just like Rodman, Phil was different, man. seemed like a hippie. Uh, he was everywhere, and I think this whole team, this whole Bulls team, was just different. Uh, with Rodman being, the most unique character of all of them, and I think without a coach like Phil, you can't control a guy like Rodman, or you can't get the most out of him. Without a guy like Phil and his understanding, his wisdom at the time, I don't think you can convince Mike to let go of the ball some more, to share the ball some more. Because he wasn't of that mentality. He wanted to win at all costs, but he wanted to be the guy, you know. Yeah, I think without Phil, a lot of things don't happen. Yeah.
No, I think his methods were very unorthodox, but sorry, can't say the word. But to me, if I was a player, I'd be, I don't know, what's this guy doing? This is just weird. I mean, we're NBA players, you know what I mean? But I guess he really knew a way how to get the team together, and and that's how you win championships. You want to have that chemistry with the team, and he just knew how to understand people in general. You know what I mean? And he's just a great mind, and
yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he would have kept that up, and would have helped the Knicks out. But you lose your, I guess, as you go.
He went to the Lakers and got five more. So
I'm saying he should have just retired then.
He can't do it as a GM, I guess. But no, let's wrap it up, guys. I mean, we got previews for next week's shows coming up. They're going to be talking about the Dream Team, so that's going to be pretty exciting with Magic, Bird, Jordan. And maybe they're going to talk about that secret game that they played, Jordan versus Magic, the Dream Team. I don't know if you guys remember that. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of things to look forward to next week.
Yeah, but that's it for today, guys. Go ahead and tune in next week when we cover up next week's episodes of the Jordan Doc series. And I'm out.
All right, later, guys.
Peace.